Welcome back to a special episode of the Lynx Golf Podcast. I'm Al Lunsford, digital editor for Lynx. We're joined by my good friend, road trip companion. It's the second time he has joined me on a road trip. For some reason, he keeps saying yes. His name is Billy Richards, Carolina Pines. I got the logo here in case anyone didn't recognize that. You can find him. I'll let him tell you where to find him. But thanks, Billy, for joining me on the trip. Thanks for joining me today to talk about it. How we doing? How we
Heck,
feeling?
heck yeah, Al. Well, for some reason you keep inviting me back, so I'm gonna keep saying yes. I think we're having a good time on these things. So no, I appreciate the invite back and the invite here today to talk about our travels. As you mentioned, Billy Richards from Carolina Pines Golf, golf photographer, videographer. You can find me at Carolina Pines Golf on Instagram. There's some underscores in there, but it should come up pretty quickly. So, yeah, excited to talk about our South Carolina adventures redux today.
We got a very tech savvy audience. They can figure out where to find you. I'm quite sure. This
I
is
am
the
sure.
yeah. This is the second time Billy's joined me, and specifically, we did a 4 day road trip around the state of South Carolina, partnered with the South Carolina Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department. Who, if you want to discover where to go, what to see and do, where to drink and eat, anything about the state of South Carolina and how you can spend your time on a vacation, on your way passing through, anything like that, go to discoversouthcarolina.com. Comprehensive guides, articles, itineraries. I mean, they have everything you need to plan a trip or a short visit to the state of South Carolina. And that includes golf. And so that where is sort of where we intersect. And last year we did this. We modeled a trip. It was barbecue and golf, and we ate quite a bit of barbecue. Tasted a lot of sauce varieties. You can go back and listen to the podcast last year about that if you want to. This year, a different spin. So I'll kind of give the lay of the land here, and then Billy and I will talk about our key takeaways from the trip and then go through the day by day of what all we did. But South Carolina, very diverse past, very rich traditions and history. We were talking about one of the states that was in the original 13 colonies that established these United States. Um, as such, there are a broad collection of museums and galleries, collections of artifacts over time, scattered statewide. So, utilizing that Discover South Carolina website, you can go and find their section on museums and get a primer on that. But in the same vein, a very historic state from a golf perspective. So, Billy, I don't know if you knew this, but the Palmetto State, South Carolina, has a claim to the birthplace of American golf. It's actually in Charleston at an open pasture that they called Harleston Green, that in the early 18th century, Scottish immigrants shipped over a bunch of rudimentary clubs and balls, featheries, if you will, and introduced their pastime to the folks there in Charleston. So they started playing a basic form of golf, dug a hole in the ground, no flags, no tees or anything, but they were batting the balls around, and it's one of the earliest, if not the earliest, um, recording of golf being played in the United States. So South Carolina can have a claim to being that birthplace. It's also the oldest golf course continuing to operate in the Southeast is in Aiken, one of our stops that we'll talk about. Palmetto Golf Club, founded in 1892. And you've got a lot of other long tenured facilities that are full of historical significance to golf, to us as players in various different ways. So we paired all that together into one big golf history field trip in South Carolina. And before we get into every single day and what we did and all the courses we played, places we visited, Billy, what were your big takeaways from this trip? I don't know what your expectations were. You had the itinerary going into it. Um, any thoughts on how you came away?
Yeah. I mean, I think we'll talk about some of the golf thoughts, and we'll get into that and some of the surprises. And I think there were quite a few there. But I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was truly the amount of vast history across the state of South Carolina. Like, I had not, I guess, really looked into it. I mean, I'm a pretty big history buff, and when I get into these holes on different topics that I'm interested in, whether it be wars or mo and and both of those were covered extensively on our trip. I think you can get into these long journeys of rabbit holes of finding out a lot about what happened in these areas. And I think with South Carolina, I just didn't know much, but there was just so much history from the Revolutionary War to the Civil War and beyond. And then from a transportation perspective, trains and the Naval Museum that we went to, or the Maritime Museum, I should say. So really cool stuff. And I think I was just really, overall, just really impressed with the vast history of the state, of the Palmetto State. So
Yeah, I think being on like this history hunt sort of, it made us approach the trip differently. And inherently, when you're doing a road trip across the state, you're bound to go through a bunch of small towns. And so I think you and I often would see a sign that we passed on the side of the road or something and immediately go, what is that all about? What do you think the background is of this place? Or we'd pass a random golf course on the road and see what Chat GPT could tell us about that golf course, things like that.
exactly. And I think as golf nuts too, right? You have a tie to history. You have a tie to old courses and exploring about, what was the history of this place? What's the story of this place? What's the story of this architect? And so I think there were some similarities that you could draw to, what we were trying to uncover at these museums and stuff like that. So
Exactly. I think that was for me the big thing is seeing the parallel between golf and the fans of history and museums and things like that, where each facility that we were visiting is very distinct. Sort of like each golf course you go to is different. They're all full of stories to tell. You choose your own adventure and learn something new along the way. Both of those things you could say that sentence about a golf course. You could say that about a museum, and both things would be true. So there's plenty to see and discover in South Carolina. Um, let's talk about what we did. So, as we did last year, Billy, we started our trip in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the northwest corner of the state of South Carolina in Greenville. So we were familiar with the lay of the land there, but we had a different itinerary going into it. We started at the Upcountry History Museum, which is in this really cool little space called Heritage Green in downtown Greenville, right in the heart of the downtown, where you've got like a children's museum, you've got a theater where they do performances, various performing arts, concerts and shows, things like that, and the Upcountry History Museum, which tells the history of the 15 counties in what's considered South Carolina's upcountry. Cool building, multi-leveled deal. You sort of the way we did it, we had a tour guide along the way who walked us through. I think it's a good way to do it, and anyone can go there and do the same thing we did, a guided tour of the place. But essentially, you start on the bottom and you work your way through history, through colonial times up until the modern day. There's a lot going on that I did not really realize the significance of where we stood, specifically in Greenville. Was once the textile capital of the world, considered to be that. And the military compounds that popped up during the world wars. I mean, it South Carolina, just you look at the map, it's right in the middle on the East Coast. So you have to think that it has a good place in the grand scheme of things when you're talking about a central point of the early United States and its formation. I think we learned that though over the course of our trip too, is that in many different ways, South Carolina's position in this country lent to a lot of things going on.
absolutely. And I think, also its early position, right? Being such a an initial state. So, but yeah, no, I think the the Upcountry History Museum was awesome. I mean, I think it had a lot going on inside, as you said. For me, I thought those textile exhibits were pretty cool. When you got to do the speed run, I'm looking at a picture right now of the
Yeah,
sketch out there. I think he might have the world record on that. I don't know.
the
Uh,
doffing station is what they
there might
called
be
it.
some footage of that to come. But yeah, very, very cool museum. I think even the information about the international companies that have come to the area too, and BMW and Michelin, I thought was pretty cool and hearing about that. But yeah, impressive setup they have right in the downtown area, right in that square. As you said, very beautiful outside. And is it associated with Furman, the museum? I think it is. It's affiliated with Furman.
I think in a
What?
way, yeah. Um, it was cool. I mean, it's kind of like the kind of place that they have something for everybody, all ages. They had like dinosaur exhibits in one room. There's some they're like more permanent stuff, and then they have rotating exhibits. So when we were there, it was the Avengers Endgame exhibit, and it's all these set worn costumes from the movie set. Chadwick Boseman, who played Black Panther, the late Chadwick Boseman, was a upcountry South Carolina native. I think he's from Anderson, South Carolina. So that was an interesting little tie-in. But that was insane. It was really fascinating. I think they're the first museum in the country anywhere that had this many of those original set pieces from that movie all displayed in the same place. So a really awesome part of that experience.
Yeah, it
Did not
was
expect that at
that
all.
room was nuts. That room was huge, and it was just full of Avenger stuff. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a cool spot that you could go and just kind of let the kids go wild for a couple hours, and then maybe go out for lunch after or something like that. So
Yeah.
we'll
Again,
go
we were
play some
there around
golf
12.
at Furman University
We did. So we went over to Furman. So historical significance there. It's the oldest private university in South Carolina. And at the time when it was built in the 1950s, there were very few on campus golf courses. So this is one of the early adopters of that. You saw that more and more as time went on. But Richard K. Webble, Walter Cosby, those are the original designs. But they had a 2008 update from Chris Spence, so that's more what we were looking at. Spence being a Donald Ross restorer, an expert at that kind of thing. So a lot of people get confused. And looking up when we were researching this, I found some stuff where people were calling Furman a Donald Ross course. It's not, but it has a lot of that Donald Ross flair because of Chris Spence coming in and inserting some cool features. A lot of great names on the Furman Golf alumni list, Billy. So Brad Faxon's the big one on the male side, but LPGA heavy hitters. You got Betsy King, Beth Daniel, Dottie Pepper, all major champions there, who played in various years at Furman. So they've got a good little Rolodex of professionals that have trained on this golf course. And today, I think what we saw, Billy, was a course that played could be challenging. You always hear that, the buzzwords about golf course architecture challenging for the good player, but playable for the novice. And that's exactly what Furman was,
for
what
sure.
I
I
thought.
mean, it definitely was. I mean, this course, I want to talk about some surprises. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect going into the trip because I'd really only I guess, heard of one of the courses that we were going to play significantly. Like the other three, I may have heard of one or two of them, but I hadn't looked into them too much. So, and one of those was Furman. I really didn't know much about it, and I have to say, it blew me away. I mean, that's a golf course I would love to have around the corner from my house because I would play it every day. It is very playable, very fun, challenging in the right ways. But again, just it'll allow you to get out there, get around tons of short grass, especially around the greens. Not a lot of trouble, but there is some bite to it for sure, especially on those greens. And yeah, I think Chris Spence did a really good job of putting his stamp on that place. And you can tell if you've played enough courses that he's touched that he's been in there. And it's held up really, really well. They've done a great job maintaining the place. And I think you said the renovation they did was 2008, so that was quite a while ago now, and it
Yeah.
looks awesome. I mean, those bunkers are still looking really good and tight. And yeah, overall, I was just really impressed with Furman, and it was a lot of fun to play. And we had some nice weather there as well. So
Yeah, we had a great day. They they're they've been on those rankings lists of the best college courses, and over time they've been amongst the nation's top 30, things like that. Like you said, not a lot of trouble. There are places that clearly you can't miss. I mean, there was a par three early in the round. I think it was like the eighth, maybe right before the par four going back to the clubhouse, where you clearly cannot miss long. We both did. I mean, both lost balls, but it's not going to beat you over the head, and there's not really any thick rough or anything like that. Some water, but there's so many ways to play those holes and to get around the trouble that you should be able to piece the puzzle together without losing balls and putting up a big number. It'll be a great, enjoyable round of golf when you get the chance to go play there. Some nice elevation change too.
yeah,
Rolling
I,
hills next to the mountains there.
I think some of the Ross comparisons probably come in from that as well. Just the routing kind of feels like something he probably would have laid out. It makes really good use of the terrain, especially in the back nine. It really starts getting moving more side to side across ridges and kind of diagonally a little bit more than just straight out and back. So really overall just was very impressed with this place and can't wait to get back. I know we had been to Greenville before and we did a par three course last year in threes down by the airport in Greenville, but it was nice to get out and get to a full 18 hole, championship style golf course. And you can see the community of Greenville gets out there and enjoys this place too. I mean, there was everybody from, seniors to kids there that we were seeing. And, right till sundown, we were there shooting and there were people pretty much teeing off one, I want to say right till about 30 minutes until sunset. So,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool vibe. That whole scene.
Yeah, I think they said faculty and students play for free as well. If you go to the college, you can just go and walk out. You pay a cart fee if you take a cart, but we saw a bunch of college-aged kids with push carts out there.
Yep.
What a great amenity
You
as a
can't beat
student.
that. And Furman was really actually right around the corner as we saw in some of
Yeah.
the photos. So yeah, very cool spot. And glad we got a chance to check that off.
Yeah, we hit the farmhouse tacos and nearby Travelers Rest after our round. Quality stuff there. Happened to realize that right across the street from Farmhouse Tacos is a little range, nightlit golf range for the people as well. So there, it was active. They cut the lights on when it gets a little darker. I think it was open till like 10. Spring Park Golf Range, I believe, is what it
Spring
was
Park.
called.
Spring Park,
Um,
really cool
yeah,
spot. Like just a vibey old school driving range that you could tell has been around for a little while and seen some stuff. The old John Masters Golf Academy and Club Repair Shop right there. So that
that's
was
right.
that was cool to run into that. If we hadn't had a lot of golf to play and already played and had to drive all the way down to Aiken, about 2 hours away, I think we would have gotten the clubs out and probably sent a few. But we snapped a few pictures for our recognition and went on our way. So
Yeah, we had to drive, had to get to Aiken. That was our next stop, and we stayed overnight at Aiken's historic Carriage House Inn, which is circa 1872. This place
what a
is,
place.
yeah, in the heart of downtown. Um, doesn't feel like you're staying in a place built in 1872. Other than, I mean, they maintained the some of the classic architecture in the main uh, inn house, but great rooms. Continental breakfast, delicious. Right across the street from the New Moon Cafe for a nice cup of kicker snoodle in the morning, if you so choose. Um, yeah, it's good place to lay your head, the carriage house. And it just so happens to be about a mile from our next golf course, the Aiken Golf Club, which you can walk. Many people do. They just hoof it, throw their bags on their shoulders, and walk a mile, 10 minutes to the golf club, which is sort of an encapsulation of the community. We're going to get into Aiken Golf Club here now, um, which for me, we were doing some video out there, and it's sort of hard to put into words. This place, Billy, how do you describe it?
Yeah, this was my second trip to Aiken Golf Club. First in the summertime. Last time I saw it, I think it was end of January. So a very different time of year. And this place, it's not links golf, but it's probably one of the courses that reminds me most of the links golf atmosphere in the United States that I visit because of how wound up it is in the fabric of the town. I mean, it's like literally right in the middle of the town. I mean, in the middle of a neighborhood, but not doesn't feel like it's in a neighborhood course that you would see like that was built in the 80s by, whatever architect, right? It's different than that. It feels like a true fabric of the community of Aiken.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, it's owned by Jim McNair Jr., who his family bought this property in the late 1950s. Kept it in the family. His dad bought it, then passed it on to him. We met Jim out there. We didn't know that that was going to happen. We're kind of talking in the pro
That's
shop,
awesome.
and one of the guys was like, "Would you want to talk to Mr. McNair? I can see if he's around." We're like, "Yeah, sure. If he has the time." So let me see where he's at. And he called him. He's like, "Oh, I'll be right there." And not 2 minutes
Dude,
after the
no,
guy hung up
it
the
was
phone.
20 seconds later he walked in the pro shop. I was like, "Did you just teleport here?"
Yeah,
It was amazing.
it was wild.
But we got a
Yeah.
cool interview with him, and it was great to get his perspective. We had talked to some of the local guys that morning. A couple of the retired guys who play there 4 or 5 times a week, and to get their perspective on the course, and gave some really interesting tidbits and history. But to get a chance to actually to talk to Jim too, and get some sound bites from him, and hear his story, and what he's done there, was awesome. So totally unexpected, as you said. So
So the history of Aiken, built in 1912, so it goes back quite a ways. It was an amenity of the Highland Park Hotel, which was sort of a winter retreat for wealthy Northerners who traveled along one of the earliest rail lines in the country, which is a big reason why we visited in town the Aiken Visitor Center and Train Museum. The original depot, the Southern Railway, which again is one of the earliest, um, and it's the first steam powered commercial railroad in the country. So it's on the route where a lot of people are venturing, making use of a new mode of transportation, and visiting and learning new places to vacation and see. So Aiken was a stop on the original South Carolina Canal and Railroad Company right away. So you had people coming down, staying at this hotel. They built a golf course designed by John Inglis with some input from Donald Ross. And it's as we learned later at the train museum, I mean, there's a good chance that hotel, the golf course, does not exist at all without that railway. So you can see from what it was before there was a golf course there, that architecture and that steepness grade. Once you get past that first hole down to the second, there's a really steep drop where they used to have this incline built to carry people back and forth at the hotel. That's now where the second hole is, and you can see the severity of that drop. And you get from the first hole through like the first five holes, right, or where that rail line runs next to. So you have the train coming through every now and then. I know you headed over there at like 6 a.m. or something.
yeah, I think it
When,
goes through hole four, I believe, and then you have to cross the road. I think it's hole four, but
yeah.
the train line comes right next to three greens, like very close, and we got some really cool pictures of that.
Hmm.
early in the morning. The fog kind of dampened the party a little bit, but it also made for some cool drama. So
Yeah, we didn't get some cool pictures. You got some pictures.
we're a team, Al. We're a team.
I was having the aforementioned cup of coffee and the breakfast as you were out there doing that, putting in some
Somebody
hard
had to
work.
sample the goods
Yeah.
at that beautiful continental breakfast at the carriage house. That place was awesome
Hmm.
for sure.
Really cool. Good chocolate chip cookies as well. But you can see, what Jim McNair Jr. did essentially with his own hands and a couple other guys. Um, the charm comes right out of the get go. You've got that double green, the first and 17th hole share right out of the gate. Um, there are abstract bunker shapes. The greens are accessible, but they're bumpy and hilly and doing a lot. Um, it's
You
really
got to have your
amazing.
irons dialed in at that place. I mean, it can be short on the scorecard, but it is not an easy golf course. I mean, it puts a premium on good iron play and hitting your spots on the greens if you're going to score well there, as you know. And yeah, tight piece of property, but a lot of fun, a lot of really cool stuff going on there. I mean, when Jim was talking and what he was able to do there for the cost that he was able to do it, I think he said around $1 million, if I remember correctly. Is kind of crazy to think about. Like, I mean, I know it was probably close to 15, 20 years ago now that it happened, but to do that kind of renovation and to make that golf course look the way it does for that price point is, I'm sure, a model that, many public and private golf course owners across the country would love to replicate.
Yeah, a ton of sweat equity poured in
Yes.
by
And
Jim
that
too.
and that price doesn't include that sweat equity, right?
True.
So
It took about 4 years for him before they finally reopened it. The fall of '99 is when they opened that back up, but um, very close to Augusta. So you have a lot of that same dynamic elevation going on, um, but
yeah.
but a green
I,
fee that represents the total opposite of what Augusta is when you're paying, $30 to $55 a round.
Yeah, just really cool logo at the course too. I think we saw the tree there that
We
they're
think we
trying
saw
to,
the
to
right
mock.
tree.
I think
There,
it's that tree. I
yeah.
think we were right. I think one of the other things I wasn't super aware of, even though that I had been there before and consider myself pretty up to speed on our buddy Donald Ross, was his involvement at Aiken. I was not super aware of what he had done there, whether it was being involved in the original layout or coming back to help um, grow in the grass greens that were installed in the 1935 or something like that, around then. And he had done that at Pinehurst a couple of years earlier, and he was kind of making his way down. So that was interesting as well. He had multiple touch points at that place over the years.
Yeah. So, after we played golf there, um, had a little lunch in downtown Aiken, headed over to the Visitor Center and Train Museum. Cool display. You have essentially the gift shop on the bottom, a couple of real Pullman rail cars, dining cars out back that they've restored and parked there for people to look at and take pictures. So we took a nice picture with our BMW that we were driving, the X5 all week, manufactured right there in South Carolina. Parked it out back. Got some cool photos with those two, representing the top of the line in their respective areas. So that was cool. But uh, upstairs at the train museum, full displays of the railway history of the town, um, including a model train that goes around the entire thing. I thought that was awesome. And we had a nice time, like understanding the importance of the railway system and the development, not only of Aiken, but the whole state and the country itself. So it's fascinating stuff. Buy yourself or your kid a model train like Billy did, and make a little day of it. But yeah, Aiken,
Loves that train.
really cool.
Yeah,
He
really
loves it.
cool.
Okay, good.
Really cool
Or
museum. I mean, speaking of kids, like I felt like at points during this entire trip that the little kid in me was coming out. I used to go to these types of museums all the time when I was younger, and to see some of the big locomotives that were there sitting on the tracks, and obviously I was up there taking pictures of them, and the Pullman cars you mentioned, and seeing how the history of the railway of the entire state really, but really in Aiken, kind of influenced the creation of the community and the growth of that community, and then also the ties to the golf course itself and how it goes. Literally, the same train goes right by, the third green complex, and we actually saw that train multiple times and got a nice picture of you with that train in the background. So
hmm yeah, might have to frame a couple of these photos if you don't mind, Mr. Richards. I might use them
I
for my personal
think we can we
my new
can we can
golf
hook that
office
up.
when I'm in my next new house. The last thing we did in Aiken was really cool. Not a public facility, but a facility that was built for the first tee of Aiken, as well as the University of South Carolina Aiken golf team over in Graniteville. Um, Billy tipped me off about this. I wasn't really aware of this place, but we got to tour and play the Chalk Mine 9 that they have, also
Yeah,
built by Jim McNair Jr.
yeah. Yeah, which was cool because when we saw Jim, we knew we were going over there later in the day, and we got to ask him about that place, which is cool. Chalk Mine looked. I'd seen some pictures of it before, and I was like just fascinated with how unique it looked. I mean, it's carved into some really rough sandhills like terrain with nine greens kind of just plopped around some really scrubby looking territory. I mean, it's about as South Carolina sandhills environment as it gets out there without having a ton of pine trees. It's the home of the Aiken First Tee, so I know that they have a big use of that facility as well as the local college golf team as well. So I know that we got to tour the facility. Mr. Bill Dawson gave us the tour, and Bill was very kind to walk around and even spend some time with us as we got a chance to play a few holes and get out there and just. I mean, man, you could have a ton of fun just looping that place. Had some vibes like a shorties. Hadn't been up to Bandon yet, but like something like that. I know you had made that comparison. I think kind of like the Cradle, but even a little bit more challenging, I'd say, at points. But really cool spot. And I think Jim had said like, listen, we need the first and the last hole to kind of make sure we do some work with the first tee. So like kind of be easy with those, but the other seven go nuts.
And he did.
and he did. He did, which is awesome.
Wild. Yeah, it looks a lot to me, having seen shorties like that place. Um, yeah, forced carries over native stuff. You sort of have to hit your spots out there, even though the holes. I think the longest one is 128, the ninth hole. So really, you just grab like two wedges and a putter when you go around this thing as one of us. But of course, the kids playing at the first tee will get a lot of different work done from 63 to 130 yards, essentially, um, and have some challenge, be able to take their what they learned on the driving range that's right there as well into actual play in you know a non-intimidating setting from a cultural perspective because they're the only ones out there. Like you're not
Exactly.
like at a country club or a course where there's a bunch of people who are members of the public playing, and you're just trying to learn the game, and there's all that pressure you put on yourself to want to do good. Of course, you still have that, but this is their own like playground essentially, and it's an amazing little court. I think it was only on like 5 acres, and it totally maximizes the use of that space.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's unfortunately it's not currently open to the public right now because they do get a lot of use between USC Aiken and the first tee, but I think they're toying with some ideas on how to make it a little bit more accessible. And it was really cool to get out there and just see some of the different creative ways that golf is being implemented, not just at the collegiate level, but for for folks learning the game as well.
Yeah, right.
I
I
think it
know that.
underscores too, like what Aiken, the hotbed that Aiken is becoming for golf.
Right. We had all these ideas, these grand ideas of going to see Old Barnwell and Tree Farm and Broom Sedge on our trip. But realistically, I don't know what that we would have had time to do any of that. But yeah, it's an absolute explosion of amazing golf in Aiken, South Carolina, and the
Yeah, I think
surrounding
we
area.
realized that we had a pretty full schedule as it was, and we
Hmm.
had to check these ones off. So
Yep. Had to boogie. So we every night we were staying in the next city that was on our list. So hop in the car and cruise over to Camden, South Carolina, in the Midlands section. So right in the heart of the state. We didn't have a tea time the next morning because the course we were playing doesn't do that. Doesn't do tea times. So essentially, I called over when we were planning this to Kershaw Golf Club, which is one of the state's oldest municipal clubs, opened as a nine-holer in 1933, expanded to 18 in 2004 by architect David Johnson. But yeah, call over there. Say, hey, we're Links Magazine and got this trip. We're hoping to book a tea time with you guys. Love to go first out. Would be great to get out in front of everybody and yada yada. And guy on the other end of the phone is sort of just gives me like, we open at 7:30. Um, Show up and we'll get you out there. Like, okay, yeah, you got it. So we're determined, bound and determined that we're going to be the first people in at the door, knocking on the door at 7:30. We're here. We're going out and here's whatever the day takes us. We're going first out.
and mind you, where are we?
We're in Kershaw, 30 minutes
Okay,
north of
of Camden,
Camden. And
which is not a big city
yeah,
as
it's
it
not
is.
like the most
So
populous area of South Carolina by any means.
we didn't think we'd be working with a ton of competition.
No, no, not at all. And this is a Friday morning, so you figure people have work to go to, and not quite the weekend yet, but certainly we show up, 30 minutes early to be safe. Even that was what we were aiming for. I was like, there's no way that this is not going to be, how things turn out. And we show up there, and there's people already there in line at the
A
door,
lot,
7
a
a.m. A
lot of people.
lot of
There's like
people.
30 people.
But yeah, by the time they opened the doors, there were 30, 40, 50 people at 7:30. Um, so we got right behind a group of guys that were trying to get around him before their wedding festivities that weekend. And we were a twosome. They were a five or sixsome. And so quickly after the first hole, they waved us through, which was great. And we got around. But Kershaw, you know, Billy, I think I wrote this is the kind of place that we're glad we mixed it in, um, because as golf nuts, it's not a bucket list course, but we still loved finding what lied down every fairway, regardless. It wasn't just like it was a beat up goat track or anything, but it wasn't the country club either. I mean, this was a course for the people that really the community obviously rallied around as an amenity in fine shape. Nothing that we thought was just like this is horrible or anything. It is in good shape, sort of interesting. You had it as it opened in the 30s, the first nine holes. It's sort of a they reflected the periods that they were designed in. So like the first nine had a bunch of very straight holes with circular greens that sort of everything kind of cut and paste, no real variety other than the direction that you were playing in. Whereas the backside, you got some of those bigger dog legs and used the land a little bit better. You had more variety, uh, better greens on the back, more diversity there. So it was absolutely a reflection of their respective time periods and the design thoughts that were going on. Um, but we played quick because we once we got past that first five, we were out of there. Um,
We boogied, man. We boogied. This
yeah,
place was cool. I mean, I think, it's your classic, um, character municipal course, right? Like it reminded me of some of the places I played growing up when I was a kid in upstate New York, up in the mountains a little bit. The land over there had some, especially on that back nine, definitely had some movement. It was a dreary day. We were having a great time that morning, right? We were out there playing in t-shirts. It's just a really relaxed
yeah,
vibe. It was, like you said, very crowded in terms of like there was a lot of activity out there, but we were never really waiting other than once we got, waved through there by those guys. And shout out to our boy. Hope his wedding went well. But Yeah, it was a fun stop, and I'm glad we went there. I think you gotta, you know, continue to visit places like this, because I think they're wound up into how all of us explore and discover the game in some way, shape, or form.
yeah. A lot of people, this is a certain walk of life when you're going and playing these courses. A lot of us grew up playing places like that. They've got local advertisements on the benches at every tee and on the scorecard. And there's a rule on the scorecard telling players shirts must be worn at all times. Is that kind of place where, maybe
Exactly.
someone's broken that rule and got away with it for a while that they finally had to include something on the card about it. Uh,
Yeah.
just had a great little morning there, and then went back down to Camden to see their Revolutionary War Visitor Center. So kind of like Aiken, where it's wrapped into the town, and you get both that section that tells you like here's all the things to do, everything going on, where to eat, um, events, things like that. They have a section that just talks about generally about the city and the surrounding area, but the larger part of the visitor center was dedicated to talking about the Battle of Camden and then the larger Southern campaign and how South Carolina, Camden, and the rest of the state, their role in sort of the American Revolution and turning the tide of the American Revolution, highlighting some of those important key figures. Even they had these very intricate displays that showed you exactly how soldiers from both sides dressed and what they ate and why that they did all the things they did at the time, what their restrictions were from a technological and weaponry standpoint, things like that. So really deep dive into the American Revolution, which is so many people are fascinated by, um, and South Carolina played a big role in that war and in our country becoming its own sovereign nation.
Yeah, no, this was a cool stop. I really enjoyed this one. I'm kind of a Revolutionary War history guy, so getting to hear more about the Battle of Camden and the Kings Mountain and Cowpens and those battles as well, and just the whole push through the state and onward, upward into North Carolina and Virginia, was really cool. And then, that area they had the outdoor center next door. I know it wasn't directly
Mm-hmm.
part of the place that we visited, but had some really cool outdoor artifacts and old houses and even an old fort and everything over there. So
Yeah,
a lot of history
cannons. Yeah,
yeah, cannons, exactly. A lot of history in Camden for sure.
yeah.
Um,
Next door, it's separate, but it's a 104-acre Revolutionary War living history park is what they called it, and that was amazing. They're separate entities, but sort of dedicated to the same mission in teaching about that period of time.
I mean, if you go, like, it would make sense to go do
Do
both if you
both.
could, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
it's it's right there, and there's such, similar. I mean, there's similar time periods and topics. I'm sure there's a lot of overlap. So,
Hmm.
really cool. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of field trips there for kids in the Camden area, to learn about history, and what a great resource for that.
Every time we visit one of these places, it made me want to like as I'm traveling down the highway and planning stops, if I have to use the restroom or anything on a long trip, it made me want to duck into like the visitor center at the next wherever I'm headed and just figure out what's going on. Like,
Not
take
do the McDonald's and go to
yeah,
the visit, go the extra 2 miles into the downtown off 95, and
just take like a few minutes and walk around and see what's what. I mean, that's a the state is pouring resources into promoting these areas, and whereas I might have just run in the restroom and run back to my car, get not make eye contact with anybody who's inside, something like that, kind of made me want to reverse that train of thought and take a beat and learn something, because everywhere we went it was like, I'm so
really
glad that we
cool.
did that. That was really
Yeah,
cool.
like
Yeah.
I mean, people may be like, "Oh, you guys went to a bunch of museums in a few days." Well, yeah, but like we actually like it was really cool topics, and we actually, that we learned a lot of stuff, and if you go in with the right mindset and you're open to it, yeah, I mean, I think it was unique.
It's always nice to be the person to like that knows things about that that other people like don't know because they've never been to like any of these places. I'm like,
And
ah,
to your
yeah, actually, this is
To your point too, right? Like about the investment that they're, I mean, these places were every museum we went to, really nice. Like you could tell that there was some significant dollars behind the investment to build them, and then obviously to run them. And I know a lot of folks donate their time to work at these things, but they're really nice facilities. Every single one of the places that we went.
and the people working there weren't just like people that would say like, "Hey, how you doing? Have a great time." It's like they were ready to tell you
Passionate.
everything,
Yeah.
and we were ready for that too. We're like, what is this place? Like, can you
Yeah,
tell us all
gave
about
us
this? And they were like,
everything on Aiken trains,
yeah.
like, and we got it, man. We got it.
Yeah, and the Upcountry History Museum, the person that walked us
Exactly.
around.
Yep.
I got walked around by someone at the Revolutionary War Visitor Center, and then same when we got to our final stop, which was Myrtle Beach, the golf capital of the world. Billy, why? Where else would you end a golf trip in South Carolina than?
We finally got from the mountains to the coast, Al.
Mm-hmm. Sure did. Made our way. I think we had a good route this time. We didn't have any really long drives on the way. But Myrtle Beach was our last stop. There's more than 80 courses at Myrtle Beach today. We decided to go to the one that started it all, the granddaddy. Pine Lakes Country Club was the Grand Strand's first golf course, built in 1927, about a half mile from the ocean, which was really cool to see once Billy threw the drone up and you saw just how close you were. Obviously, the Myrtle Beach high rise, the beachfront properties there, you can see from the golf course. Um, but yeah, once you got the eye in the sky there and you could see the ocean and the golf course from above, those are some really cool shots that I'm excited to share with our audience. But of any place, rivaling Aiken from a historical standpoint, if there was any place that felt like playing golf in a museum, it was Pine Lakes, from the clubhouse to the course itself. And there is a lot going on. Were you aware of like how many different ways Pine Lakes is like a monument in the
Not
area?
even close. And it goes to show you like how I think I know a lot about golf in the Carolinas. I'm still learning so much every day, and this is a great example of it because I think seeing the different layers of history here, from being one of the first golf course in Myrtle Beach, to being the birthplace of Sports Illustrated, to I mean all these different things, right? Like, and then the golf course itself was awesome. It was a huge surprise. I had been to Myrtle Beach a bunch, obviously, just hadn't heard of Pine Lakes, to be honest with you, and so it was a real nice surprise. Probably the some of the best photos we got. The photographer and me was pleased with that morning. Some of the best light we had the whole trip was that morning. So we caught it on a good day, and she was shining.
Yeah, we played with our good friend Jim Huntoon, who joined us from the area. I
The
forgot to
man, the
mention,
myth, the legend.
yeah, I forgot to mention. Um, you can talk a little bit about Jim if you want to. We're going to have some commentary from him within our content as well. I think if we can get a hold of him, he's all over the place.
We can get a hold of him. I think we can
Yeah,
get a hold of him.
but I forgot to
Jim's a good
mention,
guy. He's
yeah,
um, He's a professor at of agronomy down at Horry Georgetown Technical College. And Jim used to be superintendent at the Legends Group, worked at Heritage Club there, and has had a lot of experience in the golf industry, years and years, and very, very well respected guy, and just a great guy, great friend overall, and has been very kind to me in bringing me into the circle of the agronomy side of things, and teaching me a little bit about what they need to do to maintain a beautiful golf course on a regular basis. So it was good to tap into him. He works or he lives right down in Pawleys Island. So
Yeah.
we knew we were going to make a stop in that afternoon. I said, Jim, let's get together. So
So
it was
that
good.
was great because, like, you talk about Pine Lakes being a museum. Like, he was like our tour guide at Pine
Yes.
Lakes. Um, and we did get an extra almost full round before a storm rolled in and daylight was dwindling. Thanks to our friend Chris King, Kingfish Communications, who set us up at Pine Lakes, and we got an extra few holes in it, True Blue, the night before. After we left Camden, we raced against time and made it out to True Blue. I think we played 15 holes out there before we had to get off with some lightning in the area. But Jim joined us for that too, and had a great time. True Blue, you know, from a history perspective, Mike Strand's in South Carolina in Myrtle Beach. It's he's obviously a legend. It's a modern course, but
But
showcases
there's a lot of
something.
history there too. I mean, it was built actually on an old rice plantation
Right.
down there, and I think it was either a rice plantation or an indigo plantation. I think actually it was an indigo plantation because the True Blue, right? Indigo. I think
Caledonia, I think, was the
there's a
rice.
rice
Yeah.
across the street, yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of rice was grown in that area. But yeah, as you said, Mike Strantz. I mean, he needs no introduction on this podcast, and really, really cool course. Glad we got a chance to pop in there and get some holes in. Anytime you get to loop a Strantz masterpiece, even if it's for an abbreviated number of holes, it's a treat. So
For sure. And then what was the name of the place we ate in at Pawleys Island? I'm blanking on the name. Trying to look that up really quickly. While while you keep waxing poetic. A rustic table.
rustic table.
Yeah, it was the first restaurant that came up when I typed in Polly's Island Restaurant. So that's a good sign because this place is great. My wife had been there for brunch one time. I had actually never been. Um, Delicious meal
It
for
was good.
dinner after True Blue.
It was
Um,
very good.
and yes,
We had a lot going on that day.
we did. We stayed at, as one does, at a high-rise condo on the strip right next to Broadway at the beach in Myrtle Beach. Hung our heads there for the night before going over to Pine Lakes. So Billy mentioned it. Um, it is the first golf course in the Grand Strand. Uh, there's a plaque outside before you walk in the clubhouse commemorating it as the birthplace of Sports Illustrated. So a group of executives from the Time Life Corporation met there and conceived the idea for Sports Illustrated in
Cool.
1954 in the Pine Lakes Clubhouse. So there's some memorabilia inside near the dining room area and the bar.
Can confirm there are pines and lakes
Pines and
at Pine
Lakes.
Lakes.
I think it was
So,
16 of the 18 holes have water of some sort. Most of them
um,
all has pines as well.
it is on the National Places or National Register of Historic Places as well for, I believe, the Sports Illustrated birthplace.
Yeah,
That was put on in 2010. So
correct.
a lot of history at this place. What a clubhouse too, huh? Like the clubhouse is about as beautiful as they come. There's just big, white, historic, beautiful, elegant, rising up. Yeah, really nice building.
I have so much more. Like, I'm not even close to being done. So the architect of the golf course, a guy named Robert White from Scotland, he ultimately he builds Pine Lakes. Later on, he becomes the PGA of America's first president, and then he co-founded the American Society of Golf Course Architects. So the pipeline into like some serious golf staple organizations. Um, Wild. Uh, Mentioned Sports Illustrated. So the clubhouse, National Register of Historic Places. It's also now home to the Myrtle Beach Golf Hall of Fame. So they have little plaques displays out back there that you can go look through. Um, and it was built by a guy named Henry Bacon McCoy after his work on the Lincoln Memorial. He went over to Pine Lakes and built the clubhouse. So it's just like
Is that any good? Like,
this place
how's that resume?
is a museum. Uh, First maybe, and golf course 1A 1B, but
And the golf
66,
course
yeah.
was really awesome. I mean, it was a lot of fun to play. I mean, I think, I'd say there's a lot of memorable holes out there. I mean, there's a couple that, as they get towards some of the residential areas that you might not remember too much, but there were some really fun ones. I mean, kind of a tight piece of property, pretty efficient use of the route. You can tell it was built when it was, because maybe, like, unlike some other courses on Myrtle Beach, it doesn't sprawl across a massive plot of land and weaving through, residential community. I mean, it comes up at points against some communities, but it really is its own chunk of land.
Hmm. Yeah, you just don't know, right? Like Myrtle Beach has so many courses. Like, how can they stand out from one another? And some do, like the True Blues and Caledonias, Polly's Plantation. There's so many really good courses that you and I have had the chance to go to. Pine Lakes was one that neither of us had been to, and we're both just kind of like, who knows if this is going to be, that just sort of residential Myrtle Beach plain golf course, or if
Yeah.
it's going to be something pretty good. And Craig Schreiner led a restoration there in 2006. There's dog legs left and right, and you're constantly changing directions. Deep, interesting bunkers, lots of water. Greens are sort of propped up. There's a lot going on. It keeps your attention all the way through. It was also in really good shape, I thought, and you've got that nice backdrop of the Myrtle Beach skyline half the time. So I loved it. I would go back there and play the next time I was in the area, no question.
Yeah, I had some buddies going down there like within a couple weeks of when we were there, and I immediately sent them a picture of it. And I was like, "You guys should be playing this place. You need to put it on your radar." It was awesome. Again, I had not. I think I'd mentioned I had not really heard about it before, but it is definitely. It won't be the last time I go to that place. That's for sure. It was right centrally located in the middle of everything. It definitely needs to be on people's radar for a Myrtle Beach golf trip,
Yeah,
without a doubt.
you can drive a considerable distance to get to golf if you're looking for specific places in Myrtle Beach from one end to the other. But like you said, this is in the middle of everything. So um, cool spot. And then
Absolutely.
what we did uh, there in Myrtle Beach from a museum perspective, a real museum, was go down to Georgetown at the other end, just south of Pawleys Island, and the South Carolina Maritime Museum is there. And this was this surprised me in a lot of ways. It's a free place, first of all. That's a great thing. Funded every year. They have a wooden boat show down in Georgetown in October that essentially funds uh, the museum and its existence every year. All the proceeds coming in from that. They have shipwreck artifacts. They have old lighthouse bulbs that were in use at lighthouses in the area, and megalodon teeth, which my son would have absolutely loved if he got the chance to go there. I might take him there because we go vacation in Litchfield every now and then.
Yeah.
Would be worth popping down in like as
Good
something to
boardwalk,
do.
good downtown right there. I mean, Georgetown was a really cool area. That I was very surprised at the whole setup
Yeah.
that they had right on the water. The museum was really cool. I mean, I had gone to a similar museum when I was in the Outer Banks this year, also free, and a maritime museum like this. And I'm very impressed, like when municipalities, fund these types of facilities to, enshrine history, but also get the community out to experience it for no cost, which is definitely good for all. I thought the outside area was really cool too. Obviously, walking around the museum and seeing all the artifacts, but they had a sailing club going on there. You can tell it, you know, maritime history and being on the water is a big part of that community for sure.
Yeah.
It's the sailing culture, and it's huge in South Carolina, right? So they had a bunch of little, I'd say, sunfish type boats pulled up on the dock there that they had just got finished done doing a sailing class. And one of the ladies came up to me and she saw that I was flying a drone. She's like, I wish you were just here. We just had 15, 20 boats out there, doing a sailing class. It would have made for a cool picture. But no, really cool area. And some of the fishing boats, the big deep sea fishing boats were out docked out back there. And the museum itself had some really cool exhibits on, the shipwrecks that happened in the area and the naval history that's happened in the area. I mean, I'm sure, down in Charleston, you get a lot of that as well. I did read that it's the only museum in South Carolina solely dedicated to maritime history, which is kind of surprising considering the entire state, runs along the coast. And,
Right.
Charleston is a very historic maritime port. And, you think there'd be something down there as well. But no, really cool spot up there in Georgetown.
Yeah, summer youth sailing program. I mean, what a life that would be as a kid, elementary, middle school, going to learn to sail uh, over the summer. And yeah, they had a nice little boardwalk next to the water too, a little green space right next to the museum that you could, in theory, go picnic and visit the museum in one day, make a day of it. Um, it was lovely, lovely in Georgetown, and
It
that's
was.
that's where
It
we
was.
we said goodbye after Myrtle Beach and a full day. That this kind of trip is not for the weak-hearted. I mean, you think 4 days, like that's nothing. That's doable. I was totally just destroyed after this. I think I went straight from that trip to New York a few days later and back and got back and came down with something, was like very sick.
Feeling
Like,
it. Yeah. Well, thankfully, one thing that made it a little bit better was shout out to BMW and
yeah.
the Ultimate Driving Machine,
Hmm.
because that driving around that thing all week once again made it a lot easier. I mean, some of those back roads that you're on can get a little dicey at times, and that thing was an absolute champ. So much so that I was on a trip later the next week, and I felt the need to rent another one. So
Yeah.
you got me hooked.
You weren't done with the lap of luxury
No.
yet. You had to take some time to wean yourself off of that, I'm sure. As I
Paired
did.
well, paired well with golf trips,
Yeah,
BMW.
100%. Well, we will have a bunch of content coming out around this. There's a story in the fall issue of Links coming out. That's going to be hitting home soon. Got some video, some social stuff, obviously this podcast and more. So we can't wait to tell you more about our trip. Billy, thanks for joining me today to run through it and joining me on the
Absolutely.
trip again. It was a really fun time. Can't wait for next year, whatever it is we're going to be doing and running around. Sure, it'll
Yes,
be good little boondoggle for us again.
I am excited. This is becoming an annual tradition for us, and I'm excited to continue to watch this thing evolve. It was good going on this history tour with you, and yeah, looking forward to sharing all the content that we captured. Obviously, that's kind of why I'm along for the ride here. So, looking forward to sharing that with everybody, and um, in a couple more weeks.
Yeah. Again, he's Carolina Pines Golf, I think, on Instagram.
Yes.
Um, and go to discoversouthcarolina.com to find out what you can discover in the Palmetto State. Um, all right, that'll
There's
do it.
there's a lot. There's a lot to discover.
Yeah,
That's
for
for
sure.
sure.
All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Billy.
Al.
Thanks to all the clubs and the museums. Go see them.